It's an absolute myth to suggest that because we had a media department inside a creative agency that in fact we achieved better outcomes. I started my role in a media department and we never saw the creatives once. And so I think that it was sort of like never the twain shall meet. And I'm sure there are plenty of people now, we're here in the year 2014 and you have separate creative briefs and separate media briefs. And so we've still got an awful long way to go. I think that the valid question that was asked earlier was, well, if you had to start an agency again. And I think size is an extraordinary encumbrance. You know, I'm glad the Omnicom thing didn't go ahead, because that would have created Adzilla. And I think in creating something like that, the last thing we would have had would be integrated disciplines and something that would have been better for clients. And just to sort of like finish your point before handing over to Mike, in running a creative enterprise now, I'm sure we've all got really good messaging companies. We know how to make great big message campaigns, and now we're all busily trying to develop content. Well, they're two completely different disciplines. So even inside a creative enterprise, we've got a reductionist set of disciplines with advertising skills, and I'm trying to employ content people that have got expansionist skills and their storytelling skills, and I'm getting them from a completely different place. And I have to say that in working in a media department, a creative agency, and also in media sales, that the first people that I'm inviting to our conversations regarding the work we're attempting to create is in fact the proprietors, so that we can try and find more commercially elegant solutions to try and sew our clients' brands into properties that are going to invite both messaging and content, be that long-form advertising or in fact storytelling. So it is a lot better than it was, and yes, it's a lot more complicated in a way than it was, but I think at least we're seeing the signs of those conversations beginning.
If you look at companies and categories that have failed, invariably it's because they become very myopic and focus on their own internal issues. And what worries the shit out of me is we're doing exactly that today, all sitting here wondering and discussing what the right structures of media agencies and creative agencies and digital agencies should be, when we should be focusing on what our clients want. And I think, having listened to a lot of people and have my own thoughts on this, I think in a way clients will dictate this for us. There are clients who would like and would require and will use full service agencies, and that will work incredibly well for them. There are some clients who prefer bigger media agencies who have probably more depth and skills and research and data in order to be able to unbundle what is complicated marketing problems for them, and they like to have one agency that brings it all together. So I think really what we should be focusing on is what clients want, not what we want. And we will produce content as a media agency, but we can't do it anywhere nearly as well as creative agencies can, and I would argue that a lot of media agencies can do media planning incredibly well, but probably not to the nth degree of detail that we can. So I think we should stop beating each other up and focus on what our clients want and start delivering it.
And clients have a manufacturing problem, and it's a content manufacturing problem. And where a portfolio and a multinational might need 10 hours content in the next 12 months, in 24 months they'll need 40, in 48 months they'll need 100 hours. And clients can't afford to pay retail anymore. When I say retail, I mean the creative agency, and they will produce some great work and they will continue to produce great work. But there is a tail of content that clients need produced, and they need to pay wholesale. And if you look at the last 12 months, over 1,200 commercials were produced by between 7, 9 and 10. Over 3,000 integrated campaigns. So I dare to use the toothpaste and tube thing, but it's all over. There is another party here making an enormous amount of content. It's a viable vehicle for them, they're making, it's good for their commercial model, it's not going to change.
The situation that they went through with a massive chip on their shoulder and wanted to own relationships with media companies, and I think that's where a lot of the problems that we have stem from. So I think they have become a little bit closed and myopic, and so what we're trying to do in our agency is open those relationships up, and hence why we talk about being open, because if you look at the open source model of what happens in the technology space, if you get lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds to try and solve the problem, you're more likely to do a better job than if you myopically think that one comms strategist sitting with his headphones on in the corner of a media agency will do. So I think we all need to embrace that philosophy more. I think there are different models of which you can make sure that happens. But I think absolutely media agencies should stop being, I guess, the barrier between the creative genius that creative agencies have and the creative geniuses that you all have within your businesses. And I think we need to be, the people, the conduit to make those parties come together, not the barrier to stop it happening.
But no one's really talking about is this extremely tricky tightrope that we're walking, because agencies are being squeezed, as are media owners, and what's happening is, as this change happens and new channels appear and new opportunities arrive, the question becomes who's going to take advantage of it, and everyone seems to right now have an equal claim. And this is the start, and it's not going to change, of the prickly relationship that we're going to have with the creative agency, and with the digital agency, with the social agency and the PR agency, as we all lay claim to that piece of the bottom line. And that is an additional layer to, why don't we play nicely? It's because it's all grey now. There are no clearly defined boundaries as to, who actually gets to make that piece of content, or actually who gets to, have that piece of the bottom line. So if this was, a nirvana where we worked at pure core competency and it was clearly delineated, it would be fine. It's not that way. And if you add to the mix, clients don't want to deal with 7 agencies, and they want to step back, and they're hoping that agencies will sort it out. And certainly my experience, apart from where it's vertically aligned groups where there is one bottom line and they can play nicely and sort it out together, it's extremely difficult for agencies to agree as one unit and potentially even make the right decisions for clients. I think what the creative agencies, and it's never the creative agencies in the room, but what they won't acknowledge is everything is on a bell curve. So there are amazing restaurants, and there are shit restaurants, and there are average restaurants, which are the majority, and it's the same with creative work. And as I said earlier, when clients have a manufacturing problem with content and it goes from 10 hours to 40 hours to 100 hours, most of the stuff they require, in all honesty, to make that sale and have positive ROI is average work. So the creative agencies will still get the top end of the bell curve, and that will grow as clients' content needs grow. But there's an awful lot of work that they don't want to pay retail, they're going to pay wholesale, and they will find other suppliers.
Here in this room, or in a wider context, is that a new leadership is required in order to solve these problems, because there are legacy and behavioural issues, and there are mindset issues, which can lead us to continue a siloed set of disciplines. And I mean, I'd happily say that years ago I was an absolute, dinosaur of a leader. But a couple of divorces and having a daughter, and I'm far more user-friendly. and Mike will attest to, and so will Russia. And I think that, in all seriousness, a different type of leader is required, and far more of a coach is required now in running these types of enterprises, in order for these sorts of things to come together in a way that's going to be commercially valuable for us, but also achieve the sort of outcomes for clients which they desire and they deserve, and they're signing the cheque.
Obviously, if you're a procurement person, your very job is to try and get the lowest possible cost, and I think that's understandable. But where I get frustrated is the lack of link between the marketing departments we deal with and the procurement departments, because if the procurement departments are pushing a certain agenda, then there needs to be an understanding from the marketing department that that's what they're going to get. So if you want to use your restaurant analogy to get the lowest possible cost of your food, you'll probably go in and have the bread every time that you go to the restaurant, because that will be the cheapest way to fill yourself up. So I think there needs to be greater leadership from CMOs to stand up for their procurement departments and make sure that the quality of work that they want to get is properly remunerated.